Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Ruth Gotian, and welcome to the Mentor Project's Optimizing Your Success. Today, again, we have incredible high achievers. And, I put out this general request to my high achieving friends and colleagues, and I am just as surprised as everyone else as to who will actually show up. And I think that's what makes it so incredible, and it keeps us all on our toes. And today we have a great topic. Albert Einstein once said, "Thank you to all of those who said no to me. I did it anyway." And the story is people, especially high achievers, but everyone gets told no all the time. But what do you do when someone tells you no? What do you do when you get rejected? What do you do when someone tells you it can't be done? I was 43 years old when I decided to go back to school to get my doctorate. I was working full time. I had a long commute, raising a family, and I was told over and over and over again that it can't be done. Guess what? It got done. And it got done well, and it got done ahead of schedule. And I actually used Einstein's quote in my dissertation: "To all those who said no to me, I did it anyway." So I asked my high achieving friends, when someone says no to you, how do you respond? And I can tell you from interviewing all of these high achievers that I interviewed, the Olympians and the Nobel laureates and the astronauts, they all have one thing in common. No to them, when someone tells them no, all they hear is not yet. They know they're going to get it, and they're going to get it with your help or without your help, but they are going to get it. So you can either get on board or get out of the way. And our high achievers today have incredible stories of when people told them no, but all they heard is not yet. So let's meet our high achievers today. And what we're going to do is, instead of the long introductions, because I want to make sure we stay on schedule, if there was that one line under your LinkedIn profile, tell us that one line, it's like 10 words, what would it say? Dr. Allison Escalante.
It would say that I'm really study the science of human performance, and that I am on a mission to relieve the anxiety caused by the culture of criticism.
I love it. And you forgot to mention you're a physician.
Well, that too, but you gave me 10 words.
True, true. Wayne Allen Thomas.
Let's see. I'm a lawyer, and I also write long articles, sometimes. 10 words.
And I want to give a plug to Dwayne's 3-part series in Psychology Today last week, which just, if you go into Psychology Today, put in his name, start with the first one, you will thank me later, and reach out to Dwayne and let him know. Trust me, it's incredible.
Thank you.
Really incredible. Liana.
Hi, I'm Liana, your style sage, and I provide transformation through the empowerment of language, action, and wardrobe. I don't know
Perfect.
if that was
Janice Lintz.
Hi, I am a disruptor in the disability field, specializing in hearing access.
Perfect. Thank you. And our hostess with the mostest, who finally has her camera on for us, Dr. Debbie Heiser.
Hi, I'm Deborah Heiser, and I'm an applied developmental psychologist with a specialty in aging, and I'm the founder of the Mentor Project. And thanks for having me on tonight, Ruth.
Oh, thank you for joining us and having your camera on. She's usually behind the scenes, so this is really exciting for us. So, who has a story of when they were told no, it can't be done, and all you heard was not yet? Oh, Janice, I was waiting. I know you've got a lot of them.
Basically, everything I've done has been people said no. But I think one of my favorites is New York City taxis have hearing access, and have the ear symbol indicating the presence of an induction loop for people with hearing loss, similar to the ear symbol behind me for Delta, which is another project. But I remember after testifying at the New York City Taxi and Limousine Commission, a few franchise owners made a point of telling me this was not going to happen and was going to be over their dead body. And they said it in such a way that was so chilling to me. I thought it was going to be my body that was going to be dead. And so luckily I worked with a fantastic installer who had, and nobody would pilot. So one of the goals was that TLC needed us to pilot the technology, and no franchise owner would allow us to pilot the technology, even if we paid to have it installed. And by the way, I was making no money for this. I was doing this as an advocate, but no company would allow their taxi to install the taxi. And thank goodness at the time I worked with this gentleman who's since passed away, which was really horrible because he was brilliant. He figured out that he could hire taxis that appeared in movies from a company called Ye Olde Taxi, who had no connection to these franchise owners, but they were still technically a taxi, right? It was sheer genius, sheer genius. And they didn't really care what you did to the taxi as long as you turned in the same condition and you paid the fee, and he was happy to do it because he had potentially to earn money. And he also did it as a favor for me. And we did it and we piloted, and now all the new taxis in Manhattan have the hearing access. But it was great. I mean, it was just, it was really taught me a valuable lesson about not only does no not mean not yet, but when someone puts an obstacle, there's always another way. And sometimes it's not obvious and you have to be super creative. And he was super creative.
I love it. That's an awesome story. Thank you. Allison, you are nodding your head. You got a story?
You know, I gave this a lot of thought. Can you guys hear me, by the way?
Loud and clear.
Okay, because the yellow box didn't shift. But I've given this a lot of thought, and I have so many stories of people telling me what I couldn't do and no. I narrowed it down to two, but I promise I'll be succinct. The first one was actually a transformative experience for me because when I was 13, we were at family camp in Western Pennsylvania where we went every year. And we were at the river where there had been a great deal of extra rainfall. And there was this natural water slide cut out of the limestone, and it was really wonderful. But the river was very swollen this year. There were other kids going down the slide, so I thought it was okay. But when I got in the water, I did feel a moment of anxiety. And instead of going down the water slide and bouncing back up, I found myself trapped under what was at the bottom of the water slide, a waterfall. And I pushed and pushed and pushed, and I could not get out. So I tried what my dad taught me in the ocean, which was to relax and let the waves take you, and eventually it might pop you back to the surface. This is a terrible mistake if you've ever caught under a waterfall, because the water began forcing me backwards. And I realized that if I didn't pull up, I was going to drown. And I don't really know how long I was under the water, but I just couldn't. And so I kept pushing, and those rocks kept saying no. And then eventually, all of a sudden, I popped right out. Obviously, that wasn't a person saying no, but that experience kind of, well, it was my college essay, among other things. Another one is kind of a different experience, because I think most people have an experience of like someone telling you no, and then you did it anyway. And I thought I'd share a different one, which was that I had the experience where I was trained, I was training in academic medicine, and, I was in organizations that really valued prestige. And honestly, I think prestige is cool. but I kept being attracted to general pediatrics and not really interested in the research that was being done at the academic places where I was. Not that it wasn't interesting, I just didn't want to do it. And so I kept being told, no, don't do it. Don't go into general pediatrics. You're throwing your life away. And as you guys all know, I've had the opportunity in doing that to actually really get to pursue some very interesting things and end up studying what I think is interesting to study and kind of bring it together from multiple disciplines. So it's a different kind of being told no, but it was the one that really came to mind.
Love it. Debbie, you have a story?
Yes, I do. Mine is related to when I was in graduate school. I had just entered graduate school and I needed to do a project that was going to lead to my dissertation. And I worked in a nursing home. And I noticed that although they kept saying, no one's really depressed here, it's really, you know, the rates are super, super low. And I said, wow, it just doesn't seem like that. So I said, I want to do a study here. And they said, no, we already have the MDS. It's a nationally used, it's used across the nation. It's government provided. And I was like, all right, well, maybe it's just me. Okay. And I said, I don't think it's me. And I said, let me see those questions. And they only had 2 questions that they asked, which were, have you seen like Mary crying? And have you, has the person been more agitated, or have they been on a lot of meds? It's just 2 random questions. And I said, all right, I'm onto something here. This can't be right. This can't be accurate. So I said, I'd like to do my dissertation to see if the MDS is not the best tool to use. And they said, no, you can't take on the MDS. No, you can't do that. You can't try to show that there's a better way. No one will adopt it. And so I said, well, what do I have to lose? So it was a 705-bed facility, and I collected over 700 short questionnaires on depression self-questionnaires. And they said, that's not good enough. This isn't going to work. And I said, why? And they said, well, we need a gold standard. And I said, but you're using the MDS as a gold standard. It's only 2 questions. I said, no, we need a gold standard. So I said, all right, I will write to the person who made the gold standard in diagnosis that they use, that psychiatrists use in facilities. And they said, she'll never do it. And she said, yes, you can use it. So I got other college students to help me and go out and assess. Long story short, all of those no's led to a change in the United States across nursing homes, making a change in how depression is assessed in nursing homes. And it also led to an international award for the dissertation, because I didn't accept no when I kept in my gut, I kept saying, there's something there. So that's my story.
Well done.
Such a good story. I love that.
Great story.
I love it. Liana, you've had a colorful life.
Oh my God. You know, when you ask these questions, Ruth, they're so empowering in a way, because we, as what you call us elite high achievers, we get to go back and we get to take inventory of our lives in a certain way. What I find really fascinating, because I take inventory of my life at least every 6 months. I try to do it. I don't always do it, but at least every Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur I do. And so one of the things that I try to go back to is the roots of what it is that I'm doing, you know? So I go, where did this start? Like kind of what you're doing. And mine started really early on, like started when I was a kid. And I go back to some of these stories. So one of them is my power story as an entrepreneur. We were children and we were living in Berlin. I was maybe 9 years old. It was a hot summer. It never gets hot in Germany. but it was hot this summer. None of us had our parents there. We were all like a band of kids, and I was like, it was Sherwood Forest. We were all sitting in the trees and it was hot. Everybody wanted ice cream. Nobody had money. I said, I have an idea. Because everybody said, no, you can't get any ice cream. There's no money. We can't do it. I said, you guys all go to your houses, get empty bottles that you have, and we will turn these bottles into money. And they go, how are you going to do that? Well, we'll go to the kiosk at the corner. You guys all bring your bottles. Everybody bought bottles, and all the kids got ice cream. Everybody got 2 ice creams. And the thought about that, like to just go out of my head and go, I will not take no for an answer. And plus the thing that I always said to myself is, if it's to be, it's up to me. You know, I didn't wait for an outside source to come and rescue us or ask for something. It was like always, oh, we can do this. We are kids, and yet we can do it. And it's been like that my whole life. There's the one thing that I always knew that I wanted to do, if it's to be, it's up to me. It's also up to me to go ask for help. And that was a really big distinction in my life, to just pick up the phone, and which I think I have a feeling that overachievers may learn to do that during their lives. I don't know what your experience is in that domain, Ruth. You have a ton of experience. But for me, it's always been like, okay, I yes, if it's to be, it's up to me, but I don't want to do this alone. You know, at some point, it became very clear to me that I didn't want to do it alone. The other story is of how I got my white, dreamy wedding carriage. I was 15, I was engaged, I was to get married at 16, and everybody said, you can't have a white wedding carriage. There is no such thing. That's all in movies. And I thought, well, if I can't get one, where could I get one? Possibly, if I could. So I called a museum 2 hours outside of Hamburg. They had a white wedding carriage. I spoke to the proprietor who owned this antique wedding carriage. And I somehow at 15 got this guy to get the carriage out of in March when it's raining all over northern Germany. And he found 2 white horses, and he brought that wedding carriage to my parents' house, and it was there, and I got to ride in a white wedding carriage. So no,
Another time we'll have to hear about how and why you got
getting
married
married
at 15. But you know,
so no is not an option.
you know, this reminds me, I had it until you know, you and Allison mentioned going back to childhood. I never thought about this before, but I am now vividly remembering I was in 5th grade, so I was 10 years old. And in recess, the boys played soccer and the girls traded stickers. And I had no interest in trading stickers. I wanted to play soccer. And the teacher said, I'm sorry, girls don't play soccer. And that was not a sufficient answer for me. So on Friday after school, I went to the local New York Public Library. We actually went to the libraries every weekend at that time. This is, you know, before internet. And I took out every book that the library had in the children's section that had pictures of girls playing soccer. Now, mind you, this is before, you know, Mia Hamm and Abby, you know, all the big women's soccer players, this is, you know, decades before that. So I took out every book that had pictures of girls playing soccer. This is Friday. Monday, I march into school, and on my teacher's desk, I put a 2-foot high pile of books that had pictures of girls playing soccer in it. And I said, I'd like to revisit that conversation because you told me girls don't play soccer, but these books all show pictures of girls playing soccer. P.S. This is before Title IX. They had no choice but to allow me to play soccer. There was no girls team, so I had to play on the boys team. I became the goalie for the boys team, and I continued to play soccer all the way through high school. So I hadn't even thought about that it was, even then, that no was not an acceptable answer.
Yeah, and if I go back, you know, what you're saying is, I go back to when I was 2.5, and the story of being an image therapist is that I would go to my mother's bedroom. She was lying in bed with the covers over her face. She didn't want to get out of bed because she was so sick. And I would go into her closet and pull on the hanger until the hanger broke and get the clothes and get everything and lay it out on the bed she was lying in. And I would pull the covers off her face and I say, Mommy, please get dressed, because when you get dressed, you're going to feel beautiful. And then we can go out and we can have fun together. And that's at 2.5, knowing that that was not an option. What she was experiencing, the no to life, was not an option. And it's magnificent. This question that you ask has gotten me to go back to all these different moments where maybe it was not a no out of somebody's mouth, but it was a no from the situation or the universe. And that's where I created, I'm bigger than my circumstances. I am always bigger than my circumstances.
You know, it's so interesting. Just last week, I was interviewing an Olympic champion from the Winter Olympics. And he always, you know, he would lose races and then come in first and win the gold. Lose races and then win the gold. And I said, what is this cycle that you're on? And he said, when it's so simple, because when you're at the end, you have nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose by trying. So you put everything out there because everyone has already said it can't be done. So they already just ruled you out. So you have nothing to lose. You put everything out there, and he put everything out there on the ice and won the gold medal over and over and over again. So I thought that was fascinating. Dwayne, I'm dying to hear your story.
You know, it's funny. I don't have a good story.
Yeah, you do.
I
It's in
can't
you.
compete. Can't compete with anybody here.
Oh, come on.
No, the only thing I could think of is pretty much most of the things that I've done have been because somebody told me no, or like I can't do it, and it's only been recently that I've stopped doing that. But like not the earliest, but one of the earliest examples was, I used to be in the music room in the school playing around on the piano, and all the teachers would say, if you like the piano so much, you should go get a teacher. And I was like, no, I could teach myself. And they said, no, you can't. And I said, all right, watch this. So I started playing at 17, and I got the books from the music store, and I found a piano to play across the street at the school that I didn't go to and didn't have ID to get in, but somehow convinced the music department to let me practice in there. And 10 years, 4 hours a day. And I was across the street playing piano.
We didn't know about this hidden talent. When do we get to hear this hidden talent?
I don't have a piano in the house. So maybe one day. I haven't played in a little while. So when I get my piano, I'm going to start practicing again.
So this begs the question of, and Susie, I still want to hear from you of, when people told you no, all you heard was not yet. What happens to people when someone tells them no and they said, all right, that's it, and they throw their hands up? How many times does that happen? And how much great talent are we missing out on because they gave up? Because that's what they were accustomed to doing. And what if people didn't give up and they just kept trying, and over and over and over again? Allison, both of us are working in healthcare. We know rejection is part of the game. And Debbie, you also, you write academic papers. We get more rejections than we get acceptances, right? We've got this suit of armor on because it's part of our world. But, after a while, these things really, it really makes a hole in you, right?
Well, it's a common topic of discussion among women doctors is that constant culture of no and the burnout it leads to. But it's funny that you said that, because I realized I was told no about medical school too. I was studying medieval Renaissance history, and I was going to get a PhD and become a history professor, but I did all my pre-med requirements, and at the last minute I said, this is wrong, I've got to go do something in the now. So I went into the pre-med advisor, and she said, you're a year behind. You have 1 week, otherwise you'll have to just defer applying for a year, and you cannot possibly do this. But you have to turn in your application and all of your letters of recommendation, and then you have to sign up for the MCAT, and there's no way you can do it in a week. So give up now. I mean, she literally said that. And I came back in a week with all the letters of recommendation and the application, because nothing makes me more stubborn than someone telling me I can't do something.
Yes.
And she kind of looked at me and was like, okay. You know?
Yes, I find it fuels when someone tells me it can't be done, that just fuels me to do it. Debbie.
You know, I have lived this, like you said, in another way, and that was I wrote grants. I had to write grants because I was running a research department, and you get more rejections when you write grants than I think practically anything. I mean, you just know it, and that taught me one of the hugest lessons, which is that it's a numbers game. I knew I was going to hear no 4 out of 5 times, but I knew I'd get a yes one of those times. And so I just said, all right, so I have to write 15 grants, and then I'll get the number I want. And it really played out that way, that a lot of, as long as you can know that there's a yes at the end of the tunnel, that can fuel the way to get through all the no's. And that worked for me for years, and still does today, just knowing that it's a numbers game.
You have to know the game and the strategy.
I agree with Debbie. I find by having a lot of projects, you know, not putting all my emphasis into one I think I've mentioned this once before, by having a lot of projects, it makes it easier so that if one either stalls, stops, or fades away, first off, it could be temporary. So there's like one project I've been working on since 2005 to make the Smithsonian accessible. And it hasn't happened, right? But I don't consider that a failure yet, because to me it's an ongoing process. So it's 15 years. Okay, well, there'll be another administration and there'll be somebody that will finally say yes. But I don't just focus on that, but by focusing on other projects, also by succeeding in other projects, sometimes the project that's stalled for whatever unknown reason, first off, new people come around, and those old cranky people leave, or the young cranky, I shouldn't just attribute to old, but the cranky people who are putting blocks, they tend to leave at some point, hopefully. But also when you achieve a success in another area, it gives you additional credibility that maybe you didn't have at the beginning. So if the person wasn't listening, but once you accumulate enough successes, it's really hard not to listen to you. And so I find the advantage of getting older is I've now achieved so many successes that if I put my awards under my signature, people will return my phone calls a lot faster. And then some of those projects, not the Smithsonian, that one still hasn't happened, but other projects have moved forward, which was surprising to me. And I agree, it's a numbers game. I always say, you know, you got to throw stuff against the wall and something eventually sticks.
That's right. It's all the small wins on the way to the big wins. And I've seen Janice's email signature. It's like half a page long. It's lengthy.
No, but it is surprising. But something that I learned when I went to Dartmouth's Tuck School was about building the visibility. And I always, and I mean, this would be a great other topic, but I always thought that it was self-promotion and egotistical, and nothing I was interested in doing. I just wanted to get stuff done, and I really didn't care. And my professor explained to me that by achieving either awards, appointments, speaking engagements, writing articles, and doing press, the more that you do, that raises your visibility. It turns the no's into yeses a lot faster, because you have become not only a subject matter expert, but it becomes apparent. And I had a call like that today where it's a project I'm working on, and a woman told me no, and now I'm at her boss, and now it's moving forward, right? And so, but there you get that level of credibility that makes it not impossible, but difficult to say no to you, because they know also after you've achieved so many successes and big wins, and you don't get the big wins often. Sometimes you have to be really happy with the little ones, but they know you're not going to go away.
And
right?
it's the small ones that lead to the big ones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, as I always say, it's like, I never can remember who said this, and I always butcher the saying, but it's like all those little pebbles eventually lead to a path.
Mm.
I gotta remember.
That's right.
Yeah, Ruth, you know what I find so interesting is that a lot of us, or people I speak to, I mean, I am asking this question because I found myself in that position. It didn't matter to me to put the award at the bottom of the signature or the best-selling author, or that, like, I was just putting my head down, putting my head in the lane and going forward and doing what I wanted to get done. And then suddenly this positioning piece becomes really important, like Janice was just saying, you know, that it becomes a path to getting people to listen to you easier. But it's not like our first and foremost interest, you know. It's not like we do all the things we do in order to get an award. We just go forward. And that's a really interesting piece of it, is that sometimes I think high achievers need an education in positioning. Because
It's very true.
you know what I mean? It's like that's not their thing. It's they're just wanting to do it because their heart's in it, their passion is in it. They just move forward, and then someone else is back. Yeah.
Liana, it's so interesting you say that, because every time I talk to an Olympian, I say, you know, I always end the discussion with show me your medal or show me your favorite medal. And it's always like in a sock drawer, in a backpack. It's not framed on the wall, you know. And
I know.
right. And,
right.
you know, and I'll ask them, and they have, you know, all these gold medals and then a couple of silver, a couple of bronze. And I say, which is your favorite? The ones who have won multiple medals rarely show me the gold. They'll show me the silver or the bronze.
Yeah.
Which is counterintuitive, right?
Why is that?
Because it was a more challenging journey to get the silver or to get the bronze, right? So those who get the bronze, they don't see it as, oh, I got the bronze or I lost the silver. It's I won the bronze.
Yeah.
That's the way they see it. It was a bigger challenge to get that in their minds than it was the gold.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's in the sock drawer or in the backpack is just, it blows my mind. I mean, if I got an Olympic medal, it would be in a frame in the back of every Zoom, but they don't see it that way at all. And if you ask any of them, they'll all say the day they won the gold is a day in the life, not the day in the life. It's part of their story. It's not their entire story. Every single one says that. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I get it. It's so interesting because, you know, I just did this big move and I went through a bunch of stuff, and my team was with me helping move. And I put my head down and go forward. They kept opening boxes and they kept bringing out things, and you were in the LA Times and blah, 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 blah. And I just went, okay, yeah. They go, why isn't this out? Why isn't this hanging on the wall? I went, because it's in the past. It's over. It doesn't matter. What matters is what I'm doing and what we're all doing in this moment. And I think Susie's won a lot of awards. Susie, where are your awards?
In my heart and my head and other people's hearts,
Right.
I think.
That's right. Yeah.
Janice, I'm sure you were told no many, many times.
You mean Susie?
I mean, Susie, sorry. Susie, you were told no, but all you heard was not yet.
My whole life. In thinking about this conversation, I think it all starts with an insatiable curiosity and the belief that anything is possible. And then to have somebody that gives you the confidence that you can do whatever you want to do. And I think I've mentioned in this group, I had a mentor that said, Susie, I love you, get out of Miami. You can do whatever you want. So I'm always envisioning something, whether it's a photograph or my nonprofit, that it's kind of in my head and it builds up over time. So for example, when I was young, I grew up in Miami in a difficult circumstance, and I just knew in my heart I needed to get out of there. So I did, it's the same process all the way along, where I do a lot of research and then figure out which path, and then I just start going, and I ended up trying to figure out where I wanted to live in the country. I think I covered either 12 or 14,000 miles over 4 months in a little car by myself when I was 23. And I stopped at every place I thought I might have been interested in living and talked to people and, you know, prodded a little bit. And I ended up where I thought I would be in San Francisco. And it's sort of been the same process, like with my nonprofit. And what comes to mind in terms of saying no is part of what I believe is that if you go to a gathering and there's expert people talking on a subject, that there should be more than 30 people in the room or 100 people in the room. Why not document it and share it with many, many people? And that's the same thing with the interviews that we've done. You know, why should I not be the only one to have this wonderful conversation with this remarkable 4-time Pulitzer Prize winning photographer? Why not share that? And I kind of had to almost invent that because people weren't documenting conferences, and I would just kind of stick to it. And eventually they would let us document it. And now, for example, there's something called Look 3 Festival of the Photograph, which is long gone. And yet we have 3 years of that documented. At Photoville, I think we have 5 years of talks documented, and they're shared worldwide now, and we can break them up into thematic videos. So that's been almost a constant no. And also in terms of photography, people put it in a silo, they put it in a box, they just think about it one way, where I'm thinking about all these other ways that people might think about photography, such as learning how to think, learning how to talk with other people, learning how to research. So my whole life and everything I've done has been kind of going to the beat of my own drummer and talking to people about ways that they might not have thought of things. So.
That's what it's all about, isn't it? It's seeing things in a different way and being able to connect the dots that other people aren't seeing.
Also, I have what I call the terrible W's, the what if, now what, there was what if, why not, now what? And if you think about it in terms of that, you know, how can you extrapolate that and take it into many, many layers? And just because it hasn't been done means that's more opportunity for us to come up with a new way of doing things.
Is it possible that being told no actually makes us think about things in a different way?
It's a great question. What do you think?
I think so.
I think it does. I think that the way that the brain is structured and what it, how the sieve gets created, you know, how the context of our memory and the pruning and all the things that we choose to hold on to and let go of, even as a child, and how we're seen, you know, the drama of the gifted child by Alice Miller talks a lot about how we're seen by others and that we need witnesses. And I think all of those components of the tapestry of our life has to do with how we choose to, like, look at 3, like, I just look at my siblings. I'm the oldest. I have a sister a year younger and a brother 6 years younger. We all grew up in the exact same environment with the exact same parents, yet we are nothing alike. Like, we were raised by different parents. And I think that parts of it is nurture and parts of it is nature, you know, and then you choose as a child, you choose, like, no matter what, I'm going to get through this, or, oh my God, I'm a victim. I think those are for what I see is those 2. But you know what, Debbie can say a lot to that.
I was just going to say, and I think it's probably what you were starting to say about it, is that you are forced to strategize. If
Right.
someone tells you no, you have to say, well, why is it a yes?
Right.
Why, what is it that, how could I do this? It makes you think about it differently, because all of a sudden you have to have a plan, and you don't have to have a plan before that. And I think that that's and those of us who like to work with plans, that's like excellent. That's candy, in a way. So
Yeah, it's also going into places where you have resources. Like when, look at children in third world countries. They don't have toys. They go out into the yard and there's a rock and there's a stick and that becomes their whole universe, right? And I think that for me, and I don't know how I think, but I think most high achievers are, in German we say so gestrickt, mean they're knitted that way, that when something's lacking, they go inward and find the resources somehow, meaning doors and windows open up in our hearts and in our brains where we go, oh, I could turn that chair into a table and that's going to work.
I think it's a question of, are you satisfied with the status quo?
Yeah,
right? Is that good enough? Susie, you were going to say something.
Yeah, in my experience, I think it's really important to have collaborators that have a vision. And it's fine that a lot of people are very siloed, and that is how their worlds work, and that's how their mind works, and that's what makes them so brilliant. But if you have people that are open to new ideas, then my late husband used to say 1 and 1 makes 3. Where I'm not great at marketing and I don't care a lot about a ton of numbers and viewers, where there's other people that are terrific at that. So we bring what we have to the table and they bring their expertise to the table, whether it's a videographer or someone that writes curriculum, and we all get together and we create something bigger than the whole. That you have to have people that are the right partners, the right people. We made a video on collaboration because if you get the wrong people together, then it can't work. You have to have people with a vision and an open mind, and then magic can happen.
Susie, I'm so glad you brought that up, because all high achievers never go at anything alone, ever. Because, there's the black and white world, but there's all that gray in the middle. And if you can find people who can help you make sense of that gray, you will be really able to turn those no's into yeses, because you don't know what you don't know yet. And the more that you can surround yourself with diverse people, the more you're going to get these different perspectives. So it's not just about surrounding yourself with people who are in your industry or people who look like you. It's really stepping outside of that, because that's how you will find those answers that you need, right? So for example, that's how Janice found a prop, right? It was essentially a taxi prop from a TV set or a movie set, right? It's getting those different people together and finding those people. The other thing that I wanted to mention was the no's and the rejection. And it takes a lot of no's before you get to yes. Ask any actor, any performing artist, how many times they're rejected. If they just stopped every time they were rejected after an audition, we wouldn't have actors on Broadway. We wouldn't have actors on TV. We wouldn't have ballerinas. We wouldn't have opera singers. We just wouldn't. So there's something called, in group dynamics, we talk about your valence. Do you have a valence of Teflon, or do you have a valence of Velcro? Now, a valence of Velcro means every negative thought, every negative idea, every roll of the eye, every time you get a rejection or somebody snickers or says something negative, it just sticks to you. And it weighs you down and weighs you down and weighs you down, because everything is sticking to you like Velcro. And after a while, it's just too heavy. You just can't continue like that. Or you can choose to have a valence of Teflon, where all these negative comments and all these rejections just glide off of you. And I'll tell you, I used to be, up until a few years ago, I was very, very much a valence of Velcro. Everything stuck to me. I was very sensitive. And then I went to a conference and I said, I don't know a soul here. and I just learned about this. I think I am going to try on this Valance of Teflon. I'm going to try it on for size. And it was the most liberating experience. I didn't care about the roll of the eyes. I didn't care if people were sucking their teeth. I didn't care if people disagreed with me. I didn't care if people were picking for fights. I wasn't interested in the drama. That's their drama. It's not my drama. And their drama was not going to stick onto me. I was focused on something else. You're either on this bandwagon or get off. There's no room for excess luggage. So I think anyone who can try it on even for a weekend, a Valance of Teflon, you will see how freeing it is. I'm not going to say that Velcro doesn't creep in every once in a while. It really does. But I recognize it right away, which is so helpful. I don't know if anyone else has ever experienced anything like that.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding? I mean, you know, I feel everything very deeply, and it's very useful in my work with patients because, you know, I feel it with them. And so I love your metaphor, but I've known a lot of mostly guys who are Teflon men, and I've never been able to replicate it. But I have been able to do something a little different. And that is, it changed the day I started asking, I'm not talking about the empathy thing and sitting with people in their suffering. I'm talking about the mean stuff, right? I started asking, whose problem is this? Right? Because that's what happens when people bully you or they make you feel smaller, is they're trying to make you feel like there's something wrong with you, right? You know, so when I was Stinky Allison who wore a turtleneck, right, I believed that there was something wrong with me because my mom believed in Land's End. But who's, you know, once you get that, and obviously everyone recognizes that when someone needs to be aggressive, when someone needs to use those power plays and put you down, that's their problem. And once I recognize that, for me, it's more like catch and throw back. I can't not catch it. I've got the Velcro, but I got to catch it and then throw it back. And it is remarkably freeing.
That's right.
Wow. Well, Velcro and Valance. You know what's so interesting about that, Ruth? By the way, I so hear you, Allison, about being an empath and then being able to just like be Teflon is a real, it's a game changer though. I was very lucky. I grew up with a father who he would hold my face and he'd say, Liana, let me just tell you something. Half the world is going to love you. Half the world is not going to love you. So just stick with the people who are going to love you. That's it. And what's interesting is this just came up in an Enneagram course that I'm in because I was in a group and I said, I don't need you guys to like me. I don't need the whole world to like me. And the person who's running this thing got so incensed. He's like, what do you mean? I said, I don't. There are certain people in my life where I care if they like me. And then the other people, if you like me, great. If you don't like me, I'm good.
That's just because you're a type 8.
I'm an 8, yes. And it was pissing people off, Allison.
I'm telling you, my type wants to love everybody.
I know, but it's so freeing. It's such a freeing feeling, you know? It's like the world can now, everybody can now relax because you're not constantly running after. I love what you said, Ruth. I love this, just try it on for size for a minute. Or just try it on, go to a Persian party, wear a red dress when everybody's wearing black, and then see how you feel. Because everybody's snickering.
That comes with age. You know,
What?
I think it's much easier to not care what people think once you reach a certain age. I think when you're younger, you know, and you're going through and you're not wearing whatever the right turtleneck or the right shirt is, and everybody's wearing, you just want to fit in. And then you reach, for everybody, it's a different age. You just hit this point where you're like, I really don't care anymore. Like I'm over it. Like I am so over this.
Maybe it's when you have an email signature that's half a page long.
But you just hit this point where you're just like, I'm done. Like, I just don't care what you think. Like, but I think when you're a teenager and you're younger and growing up, it's really hard to.
Well, I think part of that, Janice, and I think that's a perfect segue to the end, because especially when you're younger, there's so many places where people have to judge you, right? Getting into college, somebody's judging your application. Getting into whatever professional school, someone has to judge you. Getting a job, somebody has to judge you. So there's always people judging you, and there's always people who are going to reject you. And what if you get rejected from every job you're applying to, or every school that you're applying to, or every grant or scholarship that you apply to? Does that mean you give up? You can't. You can't, because you'll never move forward. So what I want to do, and I'm hoping that everyone here really motivated, everyone who's listening, when someone tells you no, I want you to hear not yet, and just keep at it and keep at it and keep at it. So with that, I want to ask our guests, if people want to find out more about you and the amazing things that you're doing, where can they find you, Dr. Debbie Heiser?
Hi, you can find me at deborahheiser.com or at mentorproject.org.
And Dr. Heiser is our hostess and running everything so you can see us. Thank you so much. Janice Lintz.
So you can find me at janicelintz.com for my advocacy work, and for my consulting work at hearingaccess.com.
Thank you. Liana.
Thank you for having me again.
Thank you for always coming. Liana.
You can connect with me at betheoffer.com. It's a free gift, and you can send me an email. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing color to our weekly meetings. Dr. Allison Escalante with a beautiful tree in the background.
You can find me at allisonescalante.com or shouldsstorm.com because we live in a should storm of criticism, and I'm on all the socials except TikTok.
We haven't gotten that far yet. Dwayne Allen Thomas, I feel that name needs to be in a playbill.
You can find me in Brooklyn. No, I'm just equalresults.com, and you could link to it links to Psychology Today from there.
And again, I really encourage everyone to read Dwayne's 3-part article that came out in Psychology Today last week. You will thank him later. It is fantastic.
We
Susie
need to
Katz.
say one more thing. Oh,
Yes.
Susie, sorry, Susie.
Susie.
Yeah. So you can find my nonprofit at photowings.org, photowings.org, and to see some of my personal work at susankatzphotography.com. And I made 2 videos also on our Photo Wings page. You could find a little bit more about me there.
Fantastic. And I highly encourage you to look at her pictures because they are amazing. I am Dr. Ruth Gotian. You can find me at ruthgotian.com, RUTHGOTIAN. And all the social media is just my name. And how about for next week, we discuss how you get those half-page email signatures with those recognitions. Because they're tough, but there are opportunities that are often overlooked because we are all too often just going in that one direction of what people tell us when there are other ways to make an impact. So we're going to talk about ways to make an impact. How's that? Well, Allison, you were going to say something at the end?
Yes. Speaking of high achievers, let's all take a moment and just focus on Ruth and congratulate Dr. Ruth Gotian on her book deal. Yay!
Thank you. Thank you. I am so excited. Yes, I just signed a book contract with Kogan Page. I am going to be sharing the stories of high achievers. What does success mean? What are the 4 things that all of them do? And it will be real stories from the astronauts and the Nobel laureates and the Olympic champions. And I'm so excited. Thank you.